What's going on, everybody? I'm Mac, back with another video. As always, do me a favor, like, comment, subscribe, follow on Instagram. Link is down in the box below. Been a while since I made a Pens video, man, and I am aware that the Pens have had a pretty up and down season this year, but you see, I mean, that's just the whole premise of where this franchise is right now. I mean, we are 3 weeks into the new year, and the 2024-25 campaign for the Pens has been kind of tumultuous, to say the least. I mean, even after last night's win against the LA Kings, where we swept the season series against them, I'm just sitting down here saying that I honestly can't get my hopes up about this team. I really can't. And it's a shame that I have to sit down here and basically say this about all of my teams that I cheer for. I can't get my hopes up about them because while Pens fans absolutely have the right to be kind of pissed off at the situation that we're in, I'm here to tell you that most Pens fans are going after the wrong person, okay? Stop blaming Kyle Dubas for the position that the Pens are in, okay? It's not his fault. He did not ruin this organization. Well, maybe not ruin, but he did not put the Pens in this situation to where we are right now. You know who did that? Our old GM and Ron Hextall. And I'm not just saying that in hindsight. I'm not just saying that because, all the moves that he did look bad now. And not even because of the choke job the Pens had in the playoffs against the Rangers a couple years ago. I've been saying that for 3 years now. Ron Hextall was going to do absolutely no good for this franchise. And here I am sitting down here 3 years later saying it, you know? Now, let me make one thing perfectly clear, all right? I will always cherish the Stanley Cup runs. I am blessed to have seen this team win 3 Stanley Cups in less than a decade and go to 4 of them. I will always cherish the big 3, but I'm sitting down here right now telling you that the Pens are not going to win another Stanley Cup with Sidney Crosby because our last chance to do that was in 2022. And that was barring what Jim Rutherford did after the Pens won their second straight cup in 2017. It seemed like the Pens were kind of going from a team that could be on the downfall to where Ron Hextall came in and he made it a violent crash back down to earth. Okay? Because let me break down the playoffs ever since 2017, all right? No, I'm not going to go off on the Pens for losing in 2018 to the Capitals. I'm not going to do that because let's face it, they had just won back-to-back cups. They were playing the Capitals. You kind of figure, we had played the Capitals in both of our cup runs, all right? And you just kind of figure, well, maybe the Capitals were just due to beat us, and it's really hard to play in the Stanley Cup playoffs, let alone after you just won back-to-back cups. All right. Out of all the sports playoffs in North America, I'd argue hockey is the toughest of them all to play in. I'm not going to say anything about 2018, all right? It just sucks the Capitals went on to win the cup. 2019, I mean, you kind of thought that the Islanders would beat us in the first round, but it's just the Pens were just completely outmatched in that series, didn't even win a game against them. 2020 was embarrassing. That's when I started to kind of get on board with saying the Pens need to move on from Mike Sullivan. The Pens need a culture change. The Pens need a new head coach. The core's getting older because Sully was just the right coach at the right time. Now it's kind of looking like, he can't really coach this team in this current era of hockey right now. So that's why I was starting to get on board with that. 2021 choke job against the Islanders. Again, they were the better team. but still, Pens choked. And then obviously 2022, that was the last chance the Pens had at winning a cup. And then you get to 2023, where you already had, I mean, this is where the Pens truly stopped their dominance, was in 2023, all right? Because when you keep around an aging core the way that you did, it just proves to be it proves to be a mistake when really all you're doing is just serving up fan service to the fans, okay? Because at this point, Letang and Malkin were going to be here until they were in their late 30s. And you can see why some of the things that Hextall did in Philly ran the Flyers to the ground. All right. You see it when you get guys like Jeff Carter coming in here, basically just Matt Cullen 2.0. The Jared McCann debacle that turned out to be a big disaster. We lost Brandon Tanev in the expansion draft, and then we desperately reached for his replacement, and then you just end up trading him to Anaheim for basically nothing. Then you extend Jeff Carter after the playoff choke job that you had against the New York Rangers, when it was your goalie or your lack thereof that was the biggest culprit in that choke job, and you did nothing to address that there. Oh, because you like Tristan Jarry too much. And by the way, Jarry's completely unwarranted extension is just horrible. Tristan Jarry has been awful this year. Complete waste of money. Complete waste of time by this franchise. The Lafferty trade was just, well, laughable, as it says in his last name, basically. The John Moreno trade went nowhere. You extended the underachieving Kasperi Kapanen, and then you got your awful bottom six that wasn't addressed, and then you cut it to become an old team that became even older, and then you just trade away draft picks for what's basically just excess goods on this team. You see how Ron Hextall just set this franchise back. And with all that, you needed everything to go well. And I do mean everything to go well to even make the playoffs. I mean, granted, this team would have gotten destroyed by Boston in the first round in 2023. So probably better to just miss the playoffs. But here's the thing. When you're not playing your young guys, what are you going to do? You're just going to bring up more grandpas on this team and make this team even older? You have multiple losing streaks of at least 4 or more games. And when you're playing competitors, you're not only losing to them, I mean, you're just getting demolished by them. More specifically, the Rangers, more specifically, the Devils, who we sure as hell can't beat. The Islanders have given us a hard time. Carolina has completely dominated us. We can never beat Boston. Now we're not being able to beat Tampa Bay. You get it? That's where the Pens stack up against the elite teams in the Eastern Conference. We are not doing well against teams on the rise and against legit competitors. And all that culminated in 2023 when the team was, despite all this, the Pens were the 5th healthiest team in the league. The Big Three played in all 82 games together for the first time ever that they've been on this team. They've played in all 82 games. All you had to do was beat a Chicago and Columbus team that were openly tanking, and you lose both those games to miss the playoffs. Like I said, in hindsight, you would have gotten destroyed by Boston. But how embarrassing is it that you missed the playoffs because you can't beat 2 tanking teams? There's no excuse for that. And then last year you did too little too late to miss the playoffs. You wouldn't have needed the offense to go out for, a massive scoring binge to close out last season if you just did your job in the first place and you didn't make all these asinine moves at the beginning of, prior. And look at the Pens now, floating around in mediocrity, floating around with not being able to decide if they're great or not. And you're most likely going to miss the playoffs for the third straight year. Like I said, I'm thankful for the dynasty. I'll always cherish the cup runs. But the Pens, they are not the dominant team that they used to be. They're just not. All right. The Brian Russ deal looking like a massive liability right now. We have him for what, 4 more years? Complete, the guy can barely stay healthy, hasn't been a huge contributor. Not looking good. So that's just what I'm saying. Kyle Dubas did not ruin the Pens, okay? He's doing what he can. But he did not ruin the Pens. Ron Hextall did. And that's why the Pens are where they are right now. Anyway, let me know what you think down in the comments below. I'm Mac, checking on out for the day. Have a good one, everybody.